Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at some code we wrote a few videos ago and see if we can reuse it for what we've got here, the book parser we want to create. This all books page that we made in the last video takes in the entire HTML content and builds a beautiful soup object so that we can then search in it. Then it's got a books property that searches for our locator and then passes each tag it finds into our book parser. We mentioned that we wrote a similar book parser earlier on, so let's have a look at it. I'm just going to bring it in from my other screen just so you can see it. We wrote this parsed item class earlier on in this section, which took the entire page content and built a beautiful soup object. And then it had a few properties like name, link, price, and so forth that used self.soup in order to find something inside this page. And as you can see, it used sort of some locators and it then selected things and it went on to extract the title and the link and so forth from different things. What you may not have noticed is that the content of the HTML that we looked at earlier on in the section is actually the same content that's going to come in to our book parser in our other project. We've got here the article with class product pod, we've got the sort of P star rating, we've got an H3 with an A tag inside. You know, it's the same thing. We're going to get essentially the entirety of this thing into our book parser. So we can pretty much reuse everything that we've got here, except instead of receiving the page content, our book parser is going to receive the tag, which is already a beautiful soup object. So let's go ahead and copy this into a new class. I'm going back here to my project. I've moved the parsed item we wrote earlier on in the section to another screen. We're going to right click onto our parsers project, onto our parsers package, and create our book parser. Okay. Then we're going to copy the parsed item, and I'm just going to copy it, and then we're going to make a few changes. So I'm going to copy the parsed item here, and I'm going to rename it to book parser. And then we are going to make a few changes. We're going to first of all import the locators. So we're going to do from locators, book locators, import book locators. And then we're going to replace all instances of the parsed item locators that we no longer need for these book locators. Notice how previously we already dealt with using regular expressions to get the price out and things like that. So we're going to review that quickly, but we're not going to go into too much detail as to how that works because we've already seen that. And instead of the page, as we mentioned earlier, we're now going to get a sort of a parent element. And we no longer need to use beautiful soup here because the parent is already a beautiful soup object. Whenever you find something with beautiful soup, the result of finding that is a beautiful soup object that you can search on. So you can potentially find a specific object and then use that object to find other things and so forth. So that's quite nice. I don't like self.soup as a name. I'm going to call it self.parent just so it's a bit more explicit where we're searching. We're not searching on the entire sort of soup of the page. That's what it normally means. We're searching on a specific parent of this book. We're then going to follow Pep 8 by allowing a couple of lines there, and we're going to import RE, of course, to do our searching here for the price. Okay, so once again, let's review exactly what's going on here. We have, first of all, our name property. That's going to use the book locator's name locator to select one particular element to follow matching that locator and then extracting the title attribute of that. Okay. The link is going to use that locator again. It's going to find one and it's going to extract the href attribute of that. So notice how both the name and the link are finding the same tag. And that tag happens to have two attributes. Title, which is the title of the book, and href, which is the link that the link that takes us to the book page with some more details and things like that, just in case we're interested. The price is then going to find that p tag that has the price in this format, and it's going to extract it The assumption here is that there's always going to be a pound symbol in front and that there's always going to be some sort of period in the middle. That's what this regular expression syntax means. 0 to 9 is a range, and we're getting at least one of these, and more if there are more, the dot in the middle, and then 0 to 9 plus. This is probably not going to be any more than 2 numbers at the end, but it could be more if they decide to do something weird. Then we're going to search, and that's going to give us 2 groups. One group that matches the entirety of the string, another group that matches whatever's in the brackets. That's the group we're interested in because whatever's in the brackets is going to be essentially this, 51.77, as a string. And then we use the float function to turn this into a float that will look like that. We can then use that to do things like sorting if we want to find the cheapest books, for example. Finally, the rating is going to find that p tag with a rating locator, and it's going to select it. It's going to get the class attribute from it that contains these 2 attributes, star rating, and also a word representing the number of stars in the book. So that could be 4, it could be 3, it could be 2. Then we're going to get each of the classes in here, but only if they're not equal to the star rating class. So presumably that's going to be a list of a single item, which is the string 3. And we're going to return that very first item. Okay. I also mentioned earlier on in the course that you could use a filter function here if you prefer. That's something you can do as well. Now, something that I'm not a big fan of is returning this string 3 as a rating. I'd much rather return a number representing the number of stars it's got, just because when you're working with numbers, it's much easier to do sorting. And if we wanted to find, for example, all the books that are 5 stars or all the books that are over 4 stars, it's going to be easier if we've got a number as opposed to a string. Sorting with strings is not so easy. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to the top of the book parser and we're going to create a static or class property, which is going to be called ratings. And any class property, all that means is that it doesn't live inside self. So it's not like self.ratings. It lives inside the class. So you cannot change it by doing self.ratings equals something else. And we'll access it by doing book parser.ratings. And this is going to be just what you'd expect. 1 matches to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, and 5 to 5. Okay, now we've defined this class property. I'm going to show you how to use it just now. And all this does is a dictionary that if you look for the key 1, it's going to give you the number 1. And so forth for every other number. Now, instead of returning rating classes 0, what we can return is something else. We can say rating is, or rating number is book parser. Book parser dot ratings. This is how you access the ratings thing inside book parser. The same way that you'd access a particular function, book parser dot ratings. And then in here, we're going to do .get rating classes 0. And we're going to return rating number. So this is a dictionary, bookparser.ratings. The get method of a dictionary is going to return the value associated with whatever it is we pass it. So if this is the string 3, it's going to go up to the dictionary and give us the number 3. But if it does not find anything with this class in the dictionary, it's not going to return a key error. Instead, it's going to return none. Okay? So this is none if not found. Yep. If you wanted to return something else other than none, you can do that by adding another argument to the get method. So you can say, for example, 9, which would be a pretty silly thing to do, I think. But if the rating class that we passed in is not found in our bookparser.ratings dictionary, then it will return 9. Or it can return like -1, or, it can return hello, or whatever you want. And if it makes it easier, you can use it as a named argument here, and you can say default is 9. And this is what gets returned if this was not found in the dictionary. Because I'm not really thinking that we're not going to be able to find anything in the dictionary, we're going to leave it as none for the default. But we'll see what happens as we scrape the site. We'll see if we find anything weird. And that's it. We have now been able to create our book parser. We can go back to our all books page and make sure to import it. So from parsers.bookparser, import book parser. And as soon as we pass in the page content to this page, we'll be able to access the books property, which is going to find all the li tags and pass them into the book parser. Then we'll have a list of book parser objects. And for each object, we'll be able to do things like access the name property or the link and so forth. Hopefully this makes sense. Let's go over to the next video, and we're going to be writing a little bit of code in our app.py just to use this page and extract some information. I'll see you in the next video.